comes to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. And of course, it's the first thing the early church did as they got together, and it's what we should be getting together with today. I think very often we forget what we're really all about. Look at the second one here. 1 John 1:7. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another. And the blood of Jesus, our Son, purifies us from all sin. See, fellowship comes about because as we walk with Jesus, it's a natural occurrence. And we're going to look at that today. You may be seated. The last 2 weeks, this week will be the third week, and this will be the final week we'll actually talk about this during our sermon part. We've been talking about pep, putting some pep in your step, okay? And I told you the first week, the first part of pep is prayer. If you don't have prayer in your life, then you're not going to have victory in your life. If you don't have prayer in your life, you're not going to get where you want to be. And if you don't have prayer in your life, you're never going to have any direction in your life because God directs us through prayer. He directs us through the Holy Spirit, but he also directs us through prayer. Last week I talked about the importance of evangelism in our lives, that we need to be out there reaching other people and inviting people and talking to people about Jesus and how important that is as part of our Christian walk. This week I want to talk about something that deals with fellowship, and that's being prayer and evangelism partners. Folks, I want us to understand that we're in this together. I think so many Christians think their Christian walk is something so personal and so individual that they don't need to share and they don't need to be part of anybody else, and it's nobody else's business what's going on in their spiritual life. It's everybody's business. We're in this together. And I'm not talking about being nosy. I'm not talking about trying to push people's beliefs on each other. I'm not talking about that at all. But as the church started, even in the Old Testament times, and every time we as Christians have been affected, and every time God has spoken to people, he's always encouraged us to be with other people of like mind, to be with other people that will encourage us and lift us up. Some of you feel like you're an island out there and you do your own thing and you don't think you need anybody else. And I'm telling you, folks, that's why you're facing failure in your walk. You can't do it yourself. You need other people. You need to quit thinking that, well, I don't want to, I don't. Look, it's not about that. You need other people. But also this, other people need you. Quit being selfish. And I don't want you to get this idea of partners being this way. Whenever I hear the word partners, people say, yeah, my wife's she's my partner. That's my partner. Folks, read the Old Testament and the New Testament. How many couples do you see, men and women, husbands and wives, being spiritually together, doing victorious things for Jesus? Good luck. Just that it's not the way it was ordained. Most of the time you have men and women doing things separate from their spouse. Doesn't mean your spouse is not your partner. Don't mean you don't love your spouse. Doesn't mean that's not your helpmate and all the marriage. But very often God calls you to partner with other people outside of your marriage union. Other men for men, other women for women. Think about Ruth and Naomi. Think about that connection of a mother-in-law and her daughter-in-law and how connected they were. She had Boaz, and her Boaz died. It wasn't about that. It was about that union between a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Throughout the New Testament, you talk about these 12 disciples. These were 12 men that worked together. I'd like for you right now, if I asked you, how many of you can name one of the wives of one of the disciples? You can't. You don't know them. Does that mean they weren't important? Absolutely not. That doesn't mean they weren't important. But the ministry that they were doing was as a group of men together. We so very much like to create our own way of doing business for Jesus. Me and my wife, we're a team for Jesus. Who says? Is that who God told you to team up and go in and face the world for him? No, he called you to marry her, and he called you to become one, and that one can go with somebody else. You're one when you marry that person. You're just one person. You're not two. Once you got married, you're one. Now you need somebody else to team up with and work with. We got our own ideas as we Americanize Christianity of how we're supposed about doing it. And I want to talk to you this morning about the importance of prayer evangelism, and being partners together with this. We're going to make this difference in the world because we get serious about what God wants us to do. Now, I talked to you a little bit about prayer, and I'm not going to talk a whole lot more about prayer this morning, but I want us to talk about this. Prayer is the power, folks. That's how we get the power to do what we have to do. And if we're not prayed up, and we're not praying without ceasing, and we're not ready to go out there and pray with everything we've got, then we're not going to get God's direction in our lives. You're going to be flubber-dubbing all over the place. And I'm not saying, all of you pray. I know that. God is good, God is great. Let him thank him for his food. By his hands we all are fed. Give us, Lord, our daily bread. Amen. I done prayed today. And sadly, for some of you, that's your prayer life. Or you might do, if you're really, really praying, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray my Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray my Lord my soul to take. God bless mommy and daddy. And those are the prayers you learn. And that's your prayer life. But folks, God is calling us for much more than that. He's calling us some depth in our prayer life. That we're praying for each other. We're encouraging each other. We're there for each other. That we're lifting each other up. And we do indeed need each other. If you're sitting there today and you think you don't need anybody else, even if you're sitting there now, I don't need anybody but my spouse, you've been rudely awakened. You've been rudely deceived. Because that's not true. You need other people. Men need other men. Women need other women. This idea of strong men and strong women is foolishness. Oh, I don't need anybody else. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, you're doing it all wrong. Because you don't know any better, because you won't reach the direction of anybody else. You just like a bull in a china closet. Just running right on through, stubborn as you can be, doing it your way, and you're doing it all wrong. You need other people that will push you and lead you. You need mentors, and you need people to be a mentor for. You need those people in your life. Both men and women need that. Women do a better job at it than men do, but women don't do a great job at it. It's this secret sister, that's a beautiful situation. I love that. I think that's neat. When the ladies out there do it, I think that's cool. That's really neat stuff. But we're talking about something beyond that, some depth beyond that. Now, hopefully, secret sister, you're praying for your secret sister, and you're encouraging your secret sister, and you're not just giving her stuff to get her fat with, okay? I mean, you're doing other stuff, okay? Hope you're doing that other stuff, too. I mean, I know they all go, oh, look, candy. And I didn't buy it. I got to eat it, okay? But hopefully you're doing the other things, too. You're encouraging and lifting each other up. But men very often don't do that. Now, we do some of that accountability and some of that piece in our Monday night study, and we've had some sharing going on, and we encourage each other, and we lift each other up. We understand we need each other as men, but we need to take it to a different level. We need to pray for each other. We need to anguish over each other. And I don't mean anguish in a mean, negative way where we're talking about, oh, I'm boo-hooing. I'm talking about we really have a deep concern that we want to do something to help. If somebody's got a problem, we want to help you. I hear people say something. Look, let me embarrass Paulette for just a second, because I like to embarrass her because she's over here talking anyway. Okay, now, Paulette, Miss Thacker said, I want to thank Paulette for being there to take me. You know something? That's natural for them. They do this kind of stuff for each other all the time. You know why? Weird. They love each other. And they're sisters. And they're there for each other. That's what would be natural in the church. Now, I know when Miss Thacker got up and wanted to thank Paulette, she knew she didn't have to, because she knows next time Paulette's going to be there, and the next time Paulette's going to be there, and it don't make any difference. She can count on her. That's what sisters do. They're there for each other. And as Christian sisters, they're there for each other. But sometimes we think as men and women, I'm imposing on you, Chris. I can't impose on my brother. He's my brother. You can't do too much for somebody else. Let me share something with you, jumping a little bit ahead, but we're talking about prayer and evangelism partners. We talk about partners, we think about fellowship. You know fellowship has absolutely nothing to do with having a good time in the New Testament. There is not one place in the New Testament that fellowship means having a good time. Some of these churches, they get up here, they wave the flag, they have a dance team. You know, there's no dance teams in the New Testament. There isn't. I'm not saying anything wrong with it. I'm not putting it down. Dance all you want. I ain't got no problem with that. But it's not a New Testament principle. It's sharing each other's burdens. It's being there for each other. That's fellowship. That's what real fellowship is. That's lasting fellowship. In New Testament times, it might mean sending a love offering to a struggling church and helping them out. It could be that a brother is having a sin that he's dealing with and you're laying hands on him, praying with him, and encouraging him and building him up. That's fellowship. That's connection. See, we get this idea of our idea of fellowship. Oh, we're gonna have a picnic. We're gonna eat. Oh, good fellowship. That's not fellowship. That's eating. Okay, that's getting fat. Okay. In some cases, it's gluttony. Okay. That's not fellowship. And there's nothing wrong with that. We enjoy those times together, those social times together. That's social. But fellowship is when we have a bond with someone else. When we have a connection with someone else. And we need to have that pep in our lives. We're praying for each other. We're evangelizing together. And we're partners in this together. If you don't think that you're not a partner of what's going on in this Christian journey, then you're lost in it. If you know, the most depressing thing is to be out there and think you're all alone. The suicide rate in this country is unreal, folks. You think gun control is a problem? Gun control is not a problem. A lot more people die of suicide than they get shot by some crazy man like happened this past week. Granted, that's crazy, that's bad, but suicide's way bigger problem. Biggest problem is with young people because they feel so alone. And it's very easy to understand. I work with young people every day. Very easy to understand how young people feel like they're all alone because their hormones are all out of here and they're out and crazy. And young people, folks, I'm telling you, young people are mean to each other. They are mean to each other. Roger knows all about that. Now, okay, but it's reality, folks, and they don't have filters sometimes. And they say things that they don't mean, but they say it anyways, and they hurt each other. Folks, when people come into this setting in the church, when we come in here, this is a place where love prevails. We're here to love on each other. And folks, when I said we need a little bit of hug, that's what we need, a little bit of hug. And we need to love on each other. And folks, if you feel overly loved, I hope you do. Well, these people, they just want to love on you all the time. Good, that's what it feels like. Oh, they almost suffocate me. Good, I get suffocated. We are here to love each other. That's what fellowship's really all about, is being there no matter. I do things sometimes that people say, well, Pastor, you ain't got time to do that. I ain't got time to do anything else but that. There's nothing as important as another person. I can sit at my desk and study the Word for 24 hours a day, so I'll be super intellectual as I get up here on Sunday mornings. But if I don't spend time with my brothers and sisters, it's nothing, it's lost. I know a fellow who just got his degree in biblical studies, but everything I hear him say sounds like he hadn't even read the Bible. He doesn't live it. He doesn't live it. See, it's not what's going on up here. Now, we've got to have a renewing of our minds, but it's what's going on in our heart condition that really matters. And you can't go in and throw some words at somebody and say, well, let me quote the word to you, brother. And that's nice, okay? But if you're not living it and they're not experiencing it, it doesn't do you any good. You know, folks don't need a preacher. They need a brother. They need somebody who loves them. I'm the pastor of this church, folks, but I hope more than anything else I'm your friend. I don't want to just be your pastor. If I'm just your pastor, that don't mean a whole lot. I want to be your friend. Some of y'all look at me, I don't want to be your friend. But that's okay. That's okay. I still want to be your friend, even though you don't want to be mine. We're going to get there, okay? Because I want to be there for you. I'm going to share something that this is a silly little thing, but I want you to understand the simple principle of this. We have the bar over there where we had the pancakes on Sunday morning. Y'all all know that bar, don't you? And some people are concerned because there's a mess left up there. Somebody didn't clean up their mess. You know what I say? I don't say a whole lot to people to fuss about. You know what I say? That gives me more opportunity to serve them. I want them they know to clean up their mess, don't they? But if they don't, then I get to clean it up for them. That makes me feel good because I get to serve them. Most people say, well, they got to learn to learn. Look, how many of you cleaned up your baby when he was little? Or you say, oh, man, you messed your britches. You go walk around that way. Okay? You didn't have no problem doing that, do you? Some of y'all cleaned up the kids' room till they're 18. Some of you still clean it. Okay? Because that's your baby. Yeah. May not happen, but it'll stay dirty then probably. Okay? But we have so much concern about doing things for people once they're grown that we don't think we should do those kind of things for other people. Folks, if you can do something for someone else, but I saw the same thing this morning, just as beautiful. Somebody was making a waffle, and someone stopped, and somebody was waiting in line to get ready to make their waffle, and they opened up their waffle. Hey, hon, you can have that waffle. I'll make the next one. Because hey, if you want it, you have it first. See, folks, we've got to get in the mind that other people are more important than us. It's not about what I want. And folks, we lose sight of what's important so very much. Some of us spend so much time cleaning our room, cleaning our houses, and fixing our yards up, when there's so many people out there hurting that we could spend time doing that. Do you think God's going to inspect your house when you die? Let me get my white gloves off. Oh, yes, you got some dust underneath that counter. God don't care. God don't care. David must have some dust underneath that counter. Okay? Okay? God don't care about how much dust you have underneath that counter. If you spend 10, 20 hours a week cleaning your house when there's people out there you could be helping, what a waste of your time. Now, I don't mean be dirty and nasty. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about that. But this idea we got, what is the American ideal? Nowhere in the Bible did I even see this, but we believe, I was taught this by my mama. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Really? Where'd you read that at? It's not there. But we get so caught up in it. You know why? Because it's easy to clean, but it's hard to serve. We want our house to look so good. And we don't, men, oh man, my yard looks immaculate, blah, blah, blah. I've cut the grass and got all the leaves and blah, blah. You wasted 10 hours doing all that when it could have been something you could have been ministering to somebody else. Now, I'm not saying if you enjoy it and that's your relaxation, we all need some downtime, don't get me wrong. But what could you have done with that? How much difference could you have made if you spent that time serving someone else or helping someone else? Loving on somebody else. We got to be about other people. And we get so caught up. I grew up in a family. My mother was a very clean person, very neat person. But my dad, he was a nut cleaner. He'd vacuum about 3 or 4 times a day. You couldn't find a speck on the floor. And if it was, he wanted to find out who put it there. I mean, he drove my mother nuts. She cleaned once a day, but she wasn't going to clean 4 or 5 times a day. You drive her nuts. And they spent so much of their time doing that. But you know something? It changed when he got saved. Not that he was super immaculate clean anyway, but he spent more time doing God's business. He didn't have time worrying about little piddly things. You see, folks, sometimes we get off on a tangent because we don't want to deal with what we really have to deal with. It's Satan's way of throwing things in front of us to keep us busy. We make time to do what we want to do. And if you have, folks, we got people in our church right now that are dealing with cancer. We got people in our church right now that are dealing with lots of other health issues. We got people in our church dealing with emotional problems. We got people in our church dealing with financial situations. I could go on and on and on. I know most of them. A lot of you don't know them. But don't you want to help? Don't you want to be there to help them in some way? Now, some of them aren't going to open the door for you. But some of them, if you could help, wouldn't you want to help? Wouldn't you want to make it better? Don't you want to be that man or woman you're supposed to be? You have to step up and do what you got to do. We all do. I've been trying to share with some folks lately that God has ordained, and we're going to talk about this if Mike lets me at the retreat a little bit more. God has ordained men and women for certain roles. It's so hard to get a man to understand that a man has got to lead. He's got to be the spiritual leader of his family. And I put this on Facebook, and I've quoted it several times, but I still like it. And I don't know where I heard it. I'm sure I stole it from somewhere. But a man who does not lead his family is going to lose his family. You got to lead. And folks, I'm telling you that's very true today. This is more true today than ever before. You need to be the spiritual leader. Your wife is looking for you. You are the connection between her and God. You are the spiritual leader of that family. And if you don't get in that way, she's going to lose respect for you. You need to step up and be what you're called to be. God doesn't go through the wife. He goes through the husband. Amen. And some of you men, y'all like sidestep and say, okay, go ahead, talk to her, God. You go ahead. That's not your role. Your role is go straight to God. You and God deal with it, then you deal with your wife. And some of y'all, well, wife don't respect me. I wouldn't respect you either. If you don't give God his due, your wife shouldn't give her her due. In other words, if you don't put God first, she's not going to be respectful of you. She's not going to honor and obey somebody who doesn't honor and obey the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Your first priority is to raise your family in the honor and admonition of Jesus Christ. It's not to provide a living. It's not to be Big Daddy, take care of this. It's not to be any of those things. It is to be the spiritual leader of your family. And when you do that, I promise you, listen to me, I promise you, everything will fall into place. I shared with JoJo last night, because he's one of Bach kids I'm trying to help learn this. I can say that because he's my son, him and Rick both. Kenny don't have to worry about any of that right now. Lord help us. Okay. But I was sharing, and I'm going to share this because I think this is, and I told JoJo this. I'm going to share this with you. And I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but I know this is true. Bunny and Patty are strong ladies. You can be assured of that. Do you think that their marriage would have made it as long as they have if they didn't have strong spiritual men leading them? Jimmy and Dave lead their families. Okay? See, being a strong woman is great. Ain't nothing wrong. But you better have a strong man at the head. Because in this day and age, folks, I'm telling you, I'm speaking to you young folks now. When I mean young folks under 40. Marriage is not going to make it. The divorce rate, you're not going to make it today if you don't have a man leading that family. It's not like it was 30, 40 years ago because culture said, well, man was in charge. But this day and age, everybody's on the same boat. So a woman looks to a man to respect and leadership. They don't need you for anything else. They don't need you to provide for them anymore. They can provide for themselves. They don't need you for a baby maker. They go to a sperm bank. What do they need you for? They need you to be the spiritual leader of that family. Women don't need men anymore. I hate to break the news to you, they don't. Women are independent today. If you're not going to be the spiritual lead, they're going to lose interest. They can find everything you've given them anywhere. But they can't find a spiritual leadership except through you. It's worked all the way through Scriptures. It's true. You don't believe me? Read it. Some of y'all don't know Scriptures. That's why you say, well, I never heard that. I never thought of it that way. Read the Bible. It's very clear. Some of you have lived your whole lives and it's not worked that way. And marriage may have worked and think. But see, back in a few years ago, that was where our society was made up because we were based on Christian principles. But our society is not based on Christian principles today. And I want to share some of you who are 40 plus. If you think your children, their marriage is going to make it, and they don't have that spiritual basis, it's not going to work like yours did. The society's different today. Your children's marriage is condemned, destined to failure if Jesus isn't in it. So don't say, well, I raised my kids to be blah, 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 blah. You raise your kids anyway, but if you don't raise your kid, you don't raise your daughter to find a Christian man, your daughter is going to have a rough marriage. That's the way it is. And if you haven't raised your son to be a man of God, he's going to have a rough time at it. That's the way it is. I shared on Facebook, I believe it was this morning, I'm not sure what it is. And this is true, folks. Khadijah, she might be able to share this hers. I don't know if she has this experience in her class or not. I know Nancy probably did. I have it in my class. We stand up every day for the Pledge of Allegiance. You know what that means? I stand up, everybody else stays seated. Not one child in my class stands up for the Pledge of Allegiance. They have no respect for this country. They have no respect for our morals. They have no respect for anything that this country stands for today. That's a group of 8th graders in my class. They don't care. It's not unusual. That's the norm. And you think that's going to work in our society today? That's fine for our society, but marriage doesn't work unless you got God in it. See, 30, 40 years ago, Pledge of Allegiance, when I was in school, everybody stood up. If not, they'd kick your butt and make you stand up. That's not the way it is anymore. That's not the way it is anymore. You can't say anything to them. I just don't believe that. Okay? Most of them don't believe anything. You've all heard it. If you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. And that's what they do. They're falling for Satan's little ploys in their lives. Folks, what I'm asking you today, we're going to do this PEP all year. It's our theme for 2018. Prayer and evangelism partners. We're going out together to make a difference for Jesus. We're going to work together on this. But as we look at this year, I hope that some of you men are going to start standing up and being the men God called you to be. Remember, that's all God has called you to be. God has called you to be a man. And how big your biceps is, that's not what it's all about. It's how big your commitment to Jesus is. Because when you're committed to Jesus, the commitment to your wife and her commitment to you will make it. But you better make sure your commitment's strong. That's what makes the difference. Okay, I know I was getting a little wild there, but I mean this, folks. I mean this. Boy, if we could get this little glimmer of understanding what God can do in our lives, we can turn this world around. This country still does have hope, but it has no hope without Jesus. But it has no hope if we don't get serious here in this church, and church people don't get serious, the world's not going to get serious. We got to make the difference. Hope that some of you men will go home and grab your Bible rather than grab your remote and change your life. Your wife start seeing you read the Word rather than watch the ball game. Because if you don't know what's in it, you can't teach what's in it. And you can't live what's in it. And you ain't going to get what's in it just from what I tell you on Sunday morning. Come to a Monday night Bible study. Come to a Wednesday night Bible study. Show you're serious about spiritual things. This morning, we have a great, great privilege. We have the privilege of being able to welcome 4 new members to our congregation. And folks, I always